So I'm scrolling through your Twitter page right now because you quote tweeted something January 26th, and it was a picture of this.
Oh, yes. Oh, gosh, yes.
And you said, had a mushroom trip in 2023 where I thought I died. This is exactly what it looked like when I was coming back to reality. Like I was pushing through the mesh back to the physical world. Wild, period. So I was curious
Wild.
how that mushroom trip went.
Yeah, so it was in this apartment.
Solo
Actually,
dolo.
solo.
Yeah.
It was like a Tuesday night, 8:30 p.m. I'd work the next day. This was I think the exact date was June 12th, 2023, actually.
That's funny.
And I was watching videos on AI and consciousness, and at this time in my life I was very much going through shit, like the universe kicking me on this
Uh-huh.
transformative path. And I just had the urge. I'm like, you know what? I want to take the mushrooms because I had
Had some in your possession?
had some in my possession from a previous life in Minnesota, and I was like, screw it. I'm just going to take everything I had left, right? Because I didn't have a scale at the time. Typically, the way I would go about doing this is I would, measure out, I don't know, whatever, 5 grams or 7 grams, whatever I've done.
Have you taken that many before?
The most I have measured was probably like 8 or 9.
And you popped that all at once?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we've got some stories to tap into then.
Yeah, I have to like think back in real time on some of those, what those were. But
When
like,
did you do 9 grams of mushrooms?
I would have been in Minnesota. I was like exploring this. So as I was growing them, I always wanted to explore the unknown, and I was like, show me what needs to be shown to me, you know. So I can't remember exactly when I did the 9 grams, but I've had multiple large trips, I would say, and yeah. What was it? Back to the story about where I thought I died.
Through the mesh.
Yeah. So that one
on a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
8:30 with work the next day.
Yeah. And real quick before we start this, I'm sorry to interrupt
Go for it.
The thing. I want to get this set up right. It's gonna get warm. There we go.
What do you got it set to?
67, baby.
As long as it's not 66.
Yeah. 66?
As long as it's not 66.
Oh yeah, I don't like those numbers.
Don't mess with that.
Yeah, so like this was a very out of the ordinary experience. So I was like all amped up on AI consciousness, exploring the unknown. I'm like, okay, what else do I need to see? I was at a point where I needed to see something next, and I just took everything I had. This was the quote unquote first like bad trip I have.
Yeah.
So I think with psychedelics, the intention and energy you go into it with is what it's going to amplify.
And the respect that you give it.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Exactly. So usually I'm like very intentional, like a Friday night, 6 p.m. I'm going to plan it all. I'm not going to have anything the next day. I don't have to worry about that. Mm-hmm. So this night was not like that at all. Random Tuesday, work the next day, 8:30 p.m. And I took it and I start to feel the effects. And this is the first time I was like searching on my phone, how do I come down from mushrooms? Because I was literally like freaking out about it. I was like going on this spiral in my head about, oh shit, are these mushrooms bad? Because they're from like 2019 or whatever.
So you pop them, and 45 minutes later you start feeling it.
Yeah.
What's the point where you cross the threshold of like, oh shit, I'm in the matrix here? How do I?
It's probably like a lead up to it. I don't exactly remember. Yeah. But at one point I was like laying in my bed. Everything was dark black. I was somewhere with my dogs, and I'm like holding them as close as I can to my face, feeling like I can't get close enough to them.
Wow.
Although their face is like pressed up against mine. And yeah, I was like pacing around my apartment before that. I was like, oh shit, I think I did something bad, Like I literally had to like face my own physical death. I thought I was going to physically die.
Wow. And that was like real. That was
felt real. Yeah, because I was like searching, how do I come down from this? And I called. I had an ex-girlfriend at the time who had just broken up with that ended like a couple months before, and that was actually one of the main catalysts to all my exploration over the past couple of years. But I called her. I was like, just so you know, I'm doing this. I don't know. I felt the need. I wanted to tell somebody.
You called her before you took it?
After I took it, as I was coming up.
Okay. So it hadn't hit you yet.
It was starting to hit me.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was like on the phone with her, and I was just telling her, hey, I want to tell you this, just so someone knows in case like something happens, right? I was really anxious about it.
Which is smart, yeah.
Yeah. Then I get into it and go through a lot of exploration, and I don't remember the details, but the two things I remember are like fear of death kind of dissolving. Because at one point I thought I was going to see a medical team come over my body, actually like laying in my bed.
Wow. Like literally they'd walk through the door.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was going to happen. So I was like, okay, I guess this is it.
Wow.
And then I'm laying there with my dogs, trying to be close to them. I probably have a lot of other, mental explorations or whatever. One of the powerful realizations was like I can turn my negative thoughts positive. So instead of like ruminating on a negative thought, I can choose to be positive about my situation in real time, right? I don't have to dwell on that thought, right? Like moving from a victim mindset to agency or taking ownership. That was like the most powerful lesson I had out of that whole trip.
How did that insight pop up? And then how did you apply it in that trip?
I don't remember how it popped up. Yeah, I don't remember how it popped up. I just remember that being one of the core learnings out of it. So I would start to embody that right away. Like driving on the road, someone cuts me off. In the past, I'd be like, oh, fuck you. Just go through this whole mental fit. And instead of doing that, I would kind of laugh it off. I would use humor. I'd be like, oh, it's no big deal. Like maybe they're in a rush. Maybe they got something going on. I don't have to let that affect me. So I would constantly practice that in scenarios where I had a negative thought. And what I would do, I would like go to a happy place. I'd like breathe. It's funny because a lot of the things I'm exploring now, breath work, meditation, all that stuff, I kind of did intuitively in the moment where I like centered myself, breathed, took a moment of pause, imagined like a happy place, which is just this nature landscape, like big redwood trees, nature, the sun shining through, birds chirping, wind, breeze kind of flowing. And
have you been to that place, or is this just kind of
I've been to like Pacific Northwest area, probably.
Would that be?
I have been there, but that's probably.
If I were to ask you, what's your happy place, somewhere that you've been, what would you say?
I've been. Ooh, the first thing that came up to mind was Casa de Luz recently, because that space is definitely like a place I go to recharge, or if I'm like feeling down or something, I will go there.
House of light.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So back to the mushroom story. The mesh, as I was coming down, and I don't know how long this experience was, a few hours, right?
Yeah.
As I was coming down, I was able to finally get up out of my bed, and I walked to my bathroom, looked in the mirror, and it looked like that picture. It's like Matrix fabric.
Yeah, the mesh.
And it wasn't like on anything. It was just part of the existence. I don't know how to explain it. And I remember leaning on the counter, like starting to feel the physical world again. I mean, I was already standing up, laying in bed, but consciously, and it felt like the
sensation. It
felt like the counter was like bending, like it was malleable. So I was like starting to feel back into it. And then I remember like pushing forward because I could see myself in the mirror. I saw this mesh. I was pushing forward, and I could like see that mesh bending, and I felt some resistance. So it was like I was like really trying to push back through. I was like, no, I want to come back, And it looked like that picture.
Yeah.
And that was I've always had a hard time describing this to people. So when I saw that picture, I was like, fuck yeah, that's it.
Cool,
that's what it looks like.
So you were facing this mesh thing, and you tried going through it essentially, but then you pulled back?
It was...
Because obviously you can't go through the mirror.
No, it was just like kind of, imagine, I don't know how to describe this in this world. It was like the dimension I was in, I was coming back into the 3D dimension, this physical world.
So you went through the mesh to enter back
I was already in it. It's like I was already in it, and then the mesh was a barrier back through. So rather than in that picture, it's like he's going into the mesh.
Yeah,
it's like I was coming out of it. But
Okay.
It looked the same from the other side.
So it'd be like flipped. It'd be like you're coming almost from inside of the mirror through the mesh back into it, even though you were facing outside.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, that's a good way to visualize it.
Back into the. How'd you sleep that night?
I don't remember anything after that.
Really?
I don't remember what I did the next day. I haven't really thought back to this time other than the experience.
Mm-hmm.
I'll look on my notes later. I wrote some notes down during that trip, I believe. So I'm curious what they. Yeah, on my phone. I'm curious what they say.
Yeah.
So
I'm tempted to have you. I wish they were available.
I know I might be able to. Here, let me check on my iPad.
Whenever I've taken mushrooms, I always have especially at night.
Yeah.
I always have an extremely difficult time going to bed. It's like lying there for.
There's always like grogginess or something.
No, it's like my brain is so wired
Mm-hmm.
that it can't even.
Let's see.
Can't even produce the neurochemicals to make me fall asleep. Something like that.
Yeah. I see notes from. These look like iCloud notes. It's syncing, so it might take a while. Let's pause because this is in airplane mode. Well,
you can just let it rip.
Yeah.
We'll save it for another chat.
Hold on, I'm almost to the time period.
That's a lot of notes you're scrolling through.
So the way I do notes is just very unorganized, but now, ever since Jack's retreat, I've been in one note.
One massive
note.
That's
I've just
cool.
been recording all the positive stuff in one note, which feels very organized. And I'm.
That'd be such a fascinating document to go back to as well. A massive giganote.
If the Earth is this big this sounds crazy. It doesn't even make sense. If the Earth is this big organism, it would know what ties to break because it is building stronger ones beside them. Okay, so what I was imagining in the trip, I was like...
You wrote that down during the trip?
Yeah, during the trip.
It would break... Say to me the last part again?
It would know what ties to break because it is building stronger ones beside them. So what I was imagining that is like we're all these manifestations of consciousness, like we're all these appendages on Earth or of this one body. And as we're growing, we create ties with other ones, but some of those ties have to break for us to go certain places. I think that's what I was thinking at that time.
And it's always moving intelligently, essentially.
Oh gosh. Here's another one. I feel like I'm in this reality and can't really show who I am. ? It's weird. I remember this feeling though. Interesting. And I wrote, nice to see you again, smiley face. Like I was like remembering part of what this reality is. I'm like, I'm kind of afraid to read these before pre-reading them because I don't know what they are.
That's totally understandable.
Talking about sleep.
So you wrote a lot of notes then.
Sleep is the ultimate thing. You truly don't know what's going to happen next. We don't know if we'll wake up.
It's true. It's very true. There's a quote that I read one time. I actually heard it. It was, to be conscious is to be wrangling with infinity.
Okay.
And I think that's just true. It's like we don't know what's going to happen next. Someone could knock on the door.
Yeah.
But we can't, we can perhaps imagine all of it, but we also can't. And it's all unfolding in this infinite way.
Yeah, it's like our consciousness is exploring itself.
Yeah. One question I did want to ask you, because you said that Earth is essentially moving intelligently by breaking the ties that it doesn't see as being strong, like meant for its own strengthening. Do you believe in, what's your stance on fate versus free will? Because I had an interesting conversation yesterday that kind of expanded my mind on this, but I'm curious to get your thoughts.
Fate
first.
Versus free will. What was the conversation you had on it?
It was actually related astrologically, and how astrology is basically based in fate. You know, it's kind of containered in fate to a degree. It's like, this is your nature. This is kind of what will tend to happen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So my position that I kind of realized yesterday was we have free will, right? I have the ability to choose, let's say, for example, to go out tomorrow and to start working on code and learning software development. But my nature has no interest in doing that. So it wouldn't happen that way. And thus, like, the fate of my nature, which is astrologically tied in, is like creating that structure of fate where free will kind of manifests itself, but it's always leading down the river of fate, ultimately.
Okay, interesting. The thing that keeps coming to me, and I don't know if it's a direct answer to your question, but it's like everything is energy.
Yeah.
And we're all just different energies interacting with each other. And we get to choose, we can choose where we put our energy or where we direct our energy. So that's kind of tied into free will a bit. I don't know. I haven't actually thought about that question, fate and free will. I mean, we're here choosing to do the things.
Right.
And then
it's also like, what is fate?
Yeah.
And what is free will?
Yeah.
Too?
Yeah. What is fate and free will? How do you define fate?
Fate would kind of like dictionarily mean there's a predestined path.
Right.
That's always being followed. And it's your destiny, essentially. Free will is like, we create our destiny. And then some people will say, well, what if your free will is your fate? And your fate is your free will.
That's what I just was thinking. I was like, it's the same thing, right? Like, so anything that I choose, it's coming back to me now. Anything that I choose is what was meant to happen.
Exactly.
Right?
So it's like...
But I still have the free will. I'm still choosing. I'm still creating the reality in real time.
Right. But that is your fate.
Yeah.
Which is like trippy.
Right.
Because everything's always in the grand system, which is just one massive intelligence, always happening intelligently.
Yeah.
So this, me putting my hand here, like me picking up this pen, is that process unfolding, which ultimately is fate in terms of how it moves, but it's also free will that
some of these
dictates the fate.
Some of these questions are like very intellectual, and it's almost like
there's
no answer, right? It's just it's fun to explore. At the end of the day, do I need to find an answer to that question? I don't know.
Right. I don't even think there's not like a definitive, solid, indomitable answer of like, it's free will.
Yeah.
Oh, and you like map your way out. It's like, oh, it's figured out. It's not. It's unknown, ultimately.
So what do you believe about it?
What do I believe? I think if fate is free will and free will is fate. But we also have, like, nature kind of is our fate. And that's our nature, but also nature in general. Because everything is nature, the natural process.
Yeah. And
we're part of that.
Yeah.
And so the nature of ourselves and everything else is the fate of nature.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's like my nature doesn't have interest in, let's say, going to college tomorrow. So it's just like not how that would present itself through the flow of nature.
Yeah. And we all have our own unique paths too that we're on. I think both of us too. We're out of the quote unquote societal norms of
right.
And I think a lot of people are now too, right?
More and more people are. It's happening at an increasing exponential rate.
Yeah. It used to be grow up, go to college, get a job, retire, live a great life. But like that's the story we were told, but not the story we are living
or we're given, even, honestly, yeah.
Right. And now choosing a path outside of that is very exciting for me.
Yeah. It also relates to the dissemination of information. Like we have more information at our hands to realize, oh, maybe college isn't the way, or maybe the traditional 9 to 5 isn't the way.
Recently I've been thinking about this. It's like we're moving from being, I called it being ruled by story, not really being ruled, but living our lives based on the stories that we hear from other people to living our lives based on the energy we feel, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like collectively we're doing that it's because we have access to all this information, global connection,
and that even ties into moving from like reason to love.
Yeah.
Because reason is more of like a logical, okay, like what's kind of the best path for me to get a secure job and make the money and get the house and et cetera, versus love is like what is speaking from here inside for me to then express.
Yeah.
Which is exactly. Take me through your reasoning, funny enough, on how we're going from reason to love globally as a human species, consciousness, whatever you want to deem it.
Yeah.
Because when you presented that to me on our walk, I was like, yeah, like that's what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. So the way I think about it is, we're all, how do I frame this? I'm just going to go. So, yeah, there's so much here. We're globally, we're humans all across the earth, and we're more connected than we've ever been. We have the internet, we have social media, information travels so fast. I can learn about something happening on the other side of the world whereas I couldn't have done that before. So with this global connection and information and how it travels so fast, our awareness collectively is expanding. So we're learning how other people live their lives, where we didn't even know that those people existed before this, right? So that's creating a lot of clashing and kind of chaos in the world. We've been in that for a while, I think, and it's a good thing because it's like this mixing period of all these ways of being across the world, and now we're figuring out, okay, that person across the world from us isn't really so different from us. Sure, they grew up in a different geography, different culture, different religious beliefs or whatever beliefs, but they're still people. I guess, before that, it's like a lot of clash because the cultural and religious beliefs, political beliefs are clashing, because I can argue with someone, I don't do this, but I can argue with someone across the world about their belief, but it has nothing to do with me, right? Yeah. And I think we've seen a lot of that on social media over the past, decade. And it's, help me bring me back. Where was I going? The collective awareness is expanding rapidly because information travels so fast and we're all more connected than ever. So back to the point about level of reason and more to love. The level of reason, very intellectual, logical. If you look at like the map of consciousness, right? It's like level 400 and then love is above that. So I feel like collectively we're moving more towards love, and it's because of the level of reason that we're able to get to the next level. Does that make sense? To unlock that next door, because the level of reason helped us build all these amazing buildings, technologies, the internet. It helped us build those tools that we needed to connect on a global scale to rapidly expand our awareness, rapidly increase our awareness.
We essentially reasoned our way into love.
Yeah. So it gave us the ability to see.
Right.
It gave us to ascend. What it did was it gave us the ability to see the faults within us, so we could realize that love is the answer.
The grandeur.
Yes. Because when you're in the story of us versus them, like my religious beliefs are the way, and you would fight to the death because you believe that, then you start to see other belief systems kind of point to similar universal truths about who we are as people, and you really think about that, you're like, oh, wait, my way of thinking wasn't the only way. And if you're curious enough about the world and curious about the unknown, you explore that path, and you're like, oh, everything stems from something, the same thing. You know what I mean? And if that's love or
something greater,
it leads you to have more empathy for people. It leads you to have more understanding about the world, and if you look at others as just you in
Mhm.
another form, then you treat people much better. And I think we're all doing that now.
Do you believe that love is the thing that weaves everything together, both here on Earth, but universally?
Meaning, like, I mean, I think it's a core aspect to all of us.
Like this conversation
Yeah.
and this collaboration, you could argue is an act of love
Yeah.
in all of the ways.
Yeah.
And even this chair, you could posit, is giving itself through love for me to rest my being on it. So
Yeah.
could you, I think there's an argument to be made that everything is like co-creating and creating and collaborating together through love to create the universe.
Yeah.
Because that's what creation stems from, is love.
Yeah.
Right? Like literal biological creation.
Right.
The merging of love together to then create. Like if I pick up this pen and I write love on it, well, there's a merging between me, this pen, the ink inside of it, all the materials here, all of the people and resources that have gone into making this pen, all of the ancestors in my timeline that have gotten me here, all of the things that have happened in my life to get me here, this notebook and the piece of paper and all the things that have made it together through love, for then me to then write love on the piece of paper.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be love. It's hard for me because it's trying to intellectualize something or say that that's the reason.
Like that's the concept we use, the term we use for it.
Yeah.
Of like the harmonious connection and collaboration.
Yeah.
That creates and expands and grows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I resonate with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does reason from love look like for you?
Reason from love, what do you mean?
Like you personally, let's say you were at reason.
Yeah.
And you've ascended into love.
Yeah.
What has that process looked like? If it's happened, if it hasn't, what would it look like theoretically?
Yeah. So for me, it's kind of a tale of my life story, I guess. So that relationship I was in ended, and it forced me to look at myself in ways that I hadn't before. Whereas before that, I was like very logical minded, tried to control everything. And I can look back at that relationship and even like subtle ways I would try to manipulate to get my way, or say like, oh, this is just how it is because this is the facts of the situation. I wouldn't consider emotions at all. You know, I would like feel like love and desire, and you know, I'd feel emotions, but I wouldn't really consider them and know how to, like, I don't know, consider someone else's perspective. Like truly consider it.
And also feel into it, perhaps.
What's that?
And also feel into it, perhaps.
Yeah. So that experience, I read the book Attached, which is about attachment theory, which I didn't know about. And I was like, oh, wow, this book explains a lot of the dynamic I was in that relationship. I was like, wow, what else?
Which is the reason.
Right. Yeah. So like, what else don't I know about the world? What else don't I know about myself? Like, why didn't I know this already, first and foremost? Like, why wasn't I taught this? Or anyways, it's like, I don't want to feel like that again, where I can know something that helps me be a better person and operate better in the world and connect with others. Because I wasn't really connecting with people. I was very much in my head about a lot of things, insecurities. So moving out of that to love has been a long process, I guess. Yeah. My word for this year is unconditional love. So I'm trying to, in everything that I do, what would capital LOVE do? Unconditional love. You know, like, that's a tough question when you ask yourself that, and especially when it comes to like romantic relationships. Because if you respond out of frustration or fear or insecurity or whatever you're trying to control, you're not doing what love would do, right? So I'm just trying to, in my life now, I'm trying to like ask myself, what would love do in this situation? Like,
which is reasoning yourself into love.
Right. I think there's a part of you have to know
Right.
You
It's
have to
just like
become
the reasoning
aware,
part.
and then you have to like
Yeah.
embody it and feel it. So 2023 was a big awareness year for
Mhm.
me. It's like learning about all these things, consciousness, awareness expansion, different books. And then 2024 was a lot of energy work and trying to embody it and try to really feel into what those theories are and how to apply them in my life. And I'm still on that path for sure.
Yeah.
Exploring the unknown, and it's really manifested a lot in romantic relationships over like 2024, and just frustrations that come up through that. Like, you try to. A lot of people try to make someone else be what they want them to be rather than just accepting them for who they are, and that's not really that doesn't work.
No.
Right? You can
not
tell
at
people
all.
what you want and expect or whatever, but at the end of the day, like, can you accept the fact that someone you had an amazing connection with for a month all of a sudden changed their mind and was avoidant? Like, and how will you respond to that? Like, can you still love that person? Can you still love yourself? You don't have to keep yourself in situations around people like that, right? But can you accept that happened and not respond out of judgment or fear or control, and just kind of let it go and surrender to, okay, that wasn't the path meant for me.
That was the last thing you said was the thought that was running in my head was surrender it to love.
Yeah.
Because I believe, at least, that everything is always working in our favor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that means it's like, why I wouldn't have it any other way then.
Right.
It's divinely perfect.
Yes.
Which is an act of love in itself.
Yes.
To collaborate in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So then you can just surrender it to love and ascend into love.
Yeah. And when you're in those scenarios,
Mm-hmm.
those uncomfortable ones, it's hard to think about. I'm getting better at it now, like real time responding, like noticing myself when I get, uptick in emotion or whatever, and maybe would respond out of fear. But it's gotten better over the last year and a half for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like life is a never-ending lesson.
I was thinking that like the other day, like when I die, there'll still be things on one side of like, oh, I didn't explore this, and this, but like I'd still have questions, and curiosities.
Right. Yeah.
And things. I'd be like, well, what about this? And all of this other stuff.
What are you most curious about right now?
That's always a good question. That's a really good question to ask people when you're first getting to know them. Too.
Yes. Or like, what excites you? What are you most excited about right now?
What are you devoting your energy to right now?
Yeah.
What am I most curious about right now? I mean, I always have a massive degree of curiosity about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It's just like omnipresent, seemingly, which is why it's so addicting.
Mm-hmm.
Super curious about this city.
Austin.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how it will continue to unfold in the grand scheme of things, because there's a very magnetic energy here.
Yeah.
And in some aspects, like it's not Florida for me, which is where I spent the last 4 years, was like beautiful. Loved where I was, 10 minutes from the beach, full of nature that's green and lush, like 12 months of the year, essentially.
Yeah.
Here, it's not really the same way. Like it's 80 degrees today, but 80% of the trees have no leaves on them.
Yeah.
So in some aspects, it's like, but then there's this super magnetic energy to Austin where so much stuff is going down.
Yeah.
Like even Jack Sweeney, like getting to meet him, and he's here, like he's plugged in here.
Yeah.
We convened on a retreat here in Austin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Casa de Luz, the House of Light, is located in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many things that are based out of here that are creating massive ripple effects, and it's emanating from the city. So I'm curious to even, I had an apartment tour today to essentially plug myself in straight up downtown.
Yeah.
Versus being 20 minutes away from the city.
Yeah.
To basically access the current of the city to the highest degree.
Yes.
I'm hugely curious about that.
Yes.
And it's a massive unknown too, to see how it unfolds.
Yeah. That's why I want to move to that complex by Casa.
Cole Apartments.
Just want to be. Oh yeah, that's the Cola down there on that corner.
Yeah. And then the Walmsley is going to be right next.
The Walmsley. It's an inside joke.
In due time. In due time. I was thinking, because we were on our retreat
Mm-hmm.
and we had our mushroom hike on Friday.
Yeah.
And for a good chunk where we kind of posted up for, I don't know, 3 hours,
Yeah.
you were talking to Hoos over there by yourself.
Yeah.
Kind of what was that environment like? Because Hoos is just awesome.
Yeah, he's awesome.
I'm sure that must have been an awesome conversation. And then what was kind of your experience, your trip like during that hike? Because there's so much that popped up for me.
Yeah. Yeah. That conversation, I don't know exactly what it was about, but it was a lot of like telling my story and us talking about our stories
Mm-hmm.
and just what we believe about, what we currently believe about the universe and everything unfolding. And what did we talk about?
Even past that, like, what did you feel throughout the whole?
Yeah, so feeling through it, it was cool because we took them and we started walking, right?
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, at that time, I wanted to be in my own zone. I was like, nah, I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to walk and kind of get to where, not get to where we're going, but I just wanted to like maybe get into the experience. My energy was like, all right, I'm not interested in talking right now. I just want to go get into it. And then once we got to that overlook, that was a cool spot. And then once we got to that spot where we were hanging out for a couple hours,
Yeah.
then I was more talkative at that point, I believe, and then we had
Yeah.
a conversation. I'm very talkative on psychedelics, like
Interesting.
ketamine,
Because
mushrooms, MDMA one time.
ayahuasca for me, well, it's also like the nature of that ceremony is you're not really supposed to talk in temple, like conversate with other people. You can go outside of temple and do whatever.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel very conversational. Whereas me on that Friday with mushrooms, it was like
You were
diarrhea of the mouth.
Yeah, you were very
It's like,
conversational.
right? Just like
Were you reading did you have that book with you?
I did, yeah. I whipped it out and started reading the chapter on fear and fearlessness to Will because we had gotten into a conversation about that, and it was and I also like processed, and I'm still processing how these different plant medicines actually work through us, like kind of almost in the sense of how they move, like the mushroom, the mycelium network, and this popped up because I was talking to Brad, and he told me about this study or experiment that was done where they gave the mycelium, some mushroom in a petri dish, they gave them like mold that they would eat that resembled the exact Japanese subway, like all of the stops, and they basically had the mushroom map out the optimal route between all of it, like through the experiment.
Yeah.
And they were able to do it in like seconds.
Wow.
And it took human engineers decades to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so the mycelium, the mushroom, the nature is basically to weave itself through whatever it's working in. Most of the time it's underground.
Yeah.
In the most optimal and efficient way.
Right.
And so that's what I feel. Whenever I'm on mushrooms, it's like moving through me and like moving through energy and even like connecting my brain.
Yeah.
And if you've seen that picture of like, this is a human being's brain, A, control, placebo, no mushroom. And then there's B, and all of the neurological communication pathways are like fully lit up.
Yeah.
Fully, it's a really cool graphic.
Yeah.
And I feel like that moving through me, and it's like almost figuring out like the optimal path of energy through me and kind of like landing me there.
Yeah.
Whereas ayahuasca is a very high frequency medicine. And what it tends to do is it tends to meet your lower frequencies, kind of energetic blockages, and it just like clashes with them.
Oh, okay.
Like this. And so it meets that and then it kind of like works through it. In that
Like
sense.
massages them out?
In a sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I've had experiences like where my heart was just like, it felt like so much energy was just being held there and being like worked through. I've had the same thing in my stomach, but that's what it does. It just like meets it right in the middle. It doesn't like work through it like the mushroom does.
Okay. What is an ayahuasca experience like? Because I haven't done it yet.
It's wild. It's the ceremony of ayahuasca, at least the ones that I've been a part of, they're probably the most sacred and special thing that I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
They're so intentionally structured, and the container is so safe and secured because of the respect that Aya deserves.
Yeah.
And because if you don't treat it with respect, as even I did going into my recent retreat, my Aya retreat. I didn't give it the respect it deserved coming into it. And so the medicine kind of met me in the middle there. But the container that they build is very sacred and intentionally respectful for that reason, that it deserves massive amounts of respect. But I'd never been a part of like a ceremony like that.
Yeah.
Because it is like a true full-fledged ceremony. Like this ceremony is now open.
It's not just like, hey, I'm just going to go eat these mushrooms and then wait for it. No, you're like
nobody's just like, like
setting intention,
has
music.
ayahuasca in their fridge and just like takes back his shot, on a Tuesday night going to work the next day. It's just like not how it works. There's plenty of plant medicines that aren't done recreationally, but it's just not done recreationally. It's not like a LSD, let's go to a concert and pop ayahuasca. It's not how it works. So it's very ceremonial, and the space that they have in Costa Rica that I've been to is exquisitely built for ayahuasca ceremonies. Like the temple there is built with acoustics around it to reverberate the music that they sing and the songs and the hymns that they share.
So wild
throughout the entire temple.
I had an idea a couple years ago where I wanted to build a pyramid in Texas for some reason because I think that would be dope. Yeah. And it would be an amplifier.
Amplifier in what capacity?
Like what you're saying, like the acoustics.
Like
inside, you could have like a concert going on, and it would amplify throughout the space and then also outside of the space.
That'd be super cool.
Yeah.
Imagine having a concert inside of Lincoln's Pyramid in Texas.
Well, that's right. Yeah.
Sign me up. You could even host ceremony in there. But yeah, it's also unique because of the medicine itself and the way that they deliver it to you. Like you go up to the altar and take it, and it's 3 cups that are each an hour and a half long, essentially, in between each cup. Theoretically, you don't have to take any cup if you don't want to.
Yeah.
But most people end up taking all 3. But the first...
Buster.
No, Buster's cool. Buster's busting down. He just wants to hang out.
Yeah. So 3 cups.
3 cups, yeah. Both times... both of my first times ever drinking and said he was the medicine, the first cup that I consumed, I didn't feel anything for the first hour.
You can push
it
off if you want to, by the way.
No, he's cool. He's busted up. I didn't feel anything for the first hour and a half. And it wasn't until I drank the second cup that it kind of like switched on. And everybody's experience is so different too.
Yeah.
Like even last year in October in Austin, the guy next to me, Harrison, he was like in another world. He said he had to like come up for air like during his experience. I'm like sitting there like not in another realm at all. Yeah. Kind of just going through this nauseous feeling in my stomach. And meanwhile, he's like in another dimension. Yeah. And he needs to like come up for air.
Oh gosh.
Which is hilarious. So everyone's like literally the guy next to me, everyone's experience is so different. But it all comes together at the end, and it's the facilitators just do as amazing of a job as hosting space as I've seen anybody do anything. And they all bring it together at the end, and they close the ceremony in a sacred circle and in whatever way they feel called. And the ceremony closes at that point, and that's a wrap.
Nice.
And that's not even like getting into the actual medicine.
Yeah, like what insights have you had, or what was the effect of it on you?
Yeah, as much as anything, the insights and the downloads come in the integration process after it, and even in reflecting on it, and even in sharing. Like for me, when I shared with Lee my experience, I got on a call with him the Monday, 2 days after I got back from the retreat, and I talked for probably like an hour and 15 minutes straight, just about my entire week, sitting with the medicine 3 times that week. And then he came back to me and reflected on what I had said and gave me kind of his insight. And then I was like, oh, I kind of unlocked the insight that was there from the integration process of sharing it. So as much of it is beneficial during the ceremony as you get as much out of it outside of it too. The some of the core downloads, the second ceremony I ever had was one of the craziest, wildest, most special, magical nights of my life. And the full story goes, if you want to hear it,
Yeah.
is first ceremony, we come outside. We had been inside the temple the whole time.
Mm.
We come outside after the ceremony closes, and we go up to the kitchen to get food and bread and fruit to kind of nourish ourselves.
Yeah.
Before we go to bed. And we're walking up to the kitchen. And I look up in the sky, and all of the stars are out. Like I had never seen before. I was like, "What? This is amazing." I had not laid my eyes on it once during ceremony. I was like, "Man, what a bummer." And so next day we're going into ceremony number 2, and I kind of view each. It's kind of a sidebar, but I view each retreat as one grand ceremony.
Yeah.
So there's not like multiple ceremonies.
Yeah.
And the medicine kind of works in that way too. So we go into the second ceremony, but before we do, we're kind of hanging out outside of the temple before it's starting. It's like 5 p.m. in Costa Rica, and it was a cloudy day, full on clouds. It was drizzling, and I looked up at the sky and I said to my retreat mate Josh, I was like, all of the clouds are going to clear tonight, and all of the stars are going to come out. That's just what I said. I just let it rip. So we get inside, we start the ceremony, take our first cups. I don't feel anything for basically the first hour, 25 minutes.
Yeah.
They're playing music. I'm lying down on my mat. It's like, what the heck is going on? And then the last 5 minutes, I feel like a little whoosh within my body that had kind of been like turned on.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, whoa, that's interesting. And then 2 minutes later, Kevin, the head shaman, he announces the offering of a second cup for those who would like it. And so I naturally, instinctively, intuitively just like happened to spring up immediately, and I was the first one at the altar, like right away. So much so that they had to like wait for me, or they had to go and get more medicine because I was there so fast.
Yeah.
But it wasn't even like I wasn't like, oh, I want to be the first one up there. I just like sprung up and was there all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So I drink the second cup and then come back to my
They all have to say
he
hi.
wants some love now. I come back to my mat, and then it's starting to pick up. I'm like, okay, here we go. And I start to lie down, and there's this one moment with that same guy, Josh.
Yeah.
He was like 2 beds down from me, and he whispered over to me. He was like, "Psst," because I was writing something down in my journal. And the previous night, I was writing a download down in my journal, and he like wanted to get the insights. He was like, "Whisper it over." So he whispered me, "Psst," and I just thought it was the funniest thing ever. I just started cackling in laughter. And then I went and lied down as everyone else was getting their medicine, but I was like already in it.
Yeah.
Well, everyone else was pretty much getting it. So I'm lying down there, it starts working through, and then there's a moment of silence, a period of silence. And then all of a sudden this dazzling, mystical, like metal drum starts playing, and it's this soft like I'm like, what is this? My whole being is enamored with it. And then the music starts to pick up. And then it starts to actually get a little intense because there's drums playing and it's reverberating all over. It's like feels like it's surround sound.
Uh-huh.
And the medicine kind of works in unison with that vibration of the music.
Yeah.
And so it starts to pick up, and then eventually I got to a point where I forgave myself for the first time ever.
Wow.
And it came on the heels of being on a pre-retreat call, and one of the prompts in the journals that Jay, the retreat leader, gives us is, who do you need to forgive in your life?
Yeah.
And I wrote like, nobody. Like, I've forgiven everybody, and I'm good, clean slate, right? And then I shared that on the call, and then both Josh and Jay pretty much immediately said after I finished, "Well, have you forgiven yourself?" I was like, "Oh, that's interesting," but I didn't like do much with it. Kind of cast it off to the side.
Yeah.
Then it popped back up during this second cup, and I like literally processed and felt through the entire forgiveness of my being for the very first time.
Wow.
And it happened after I put my shirt on my face and just went into like not being able to see the light
Yeah.
because of the shirt. And in my face and my whole body was just wrenched with emotion. Like I was crying in my shirt.
Yeah.
It was like, oh my God. It was like so much was being released.
Yeah.
And so I processed through that. And then all of a sudden I hear on my left, my guy Pascal from Dubai
Yeah.
traveled, almost a day to get to Costa Rica. He starts giggling, and this guy's like sitting up against the wall, and he's got an eye mask on.
Uh-huh.
And the previous night, he said that his experience was essentially like he was on a balloon, and he was like being carried up out of Earth and like on a rocket ship, and he said it was like the most gleeful, blissful thing ever. So he just kind of had like a funny, awesome, cool experience. So he's sitting up against the wall, and he starts giggling, and so I start imagining like him in this rocket state holding onto a balloon, and clearly he's going through something funny, so that kind of like inserts that vibration into the whole field. And then Ram next to me, who's this big teddy bear guy, the most lovable guy you'll ever meet, best laugh ever, he starts laughing with Pascal too. It's like kind of infects him.
Yeah.
And he starts ripping it from the belly, like he starts really belly laughing. It's becoming louder and louder, and it's supposed to be kind of a quiet type of thing for the retreat people.
Yeah.
And so Kevin comes over, and we're all thinking like, oh, Kevin's gonna be like, shut up, dude, stay quiet. He comes over, he whispers, laughter's the best medicine. And it's just like the perfect thing to say. And then everybody, Josh next to me, Jordan next to Ram, or Josh a couple beds down, Jordan next to Ram, everybody, it's like literally a laughter vortex emerges in the temple, and everybody's laughing. It was right on the heels of me going through this immense releasing of forgiving myself and like utter pure sadness and emotion of crying. And it was right after just like the most blissful laughter experience I've ever gone through. I was like, oh my God. So I'm sitting up against the temple at this point on my mat, looking at the fire, just kind of soaking up the entire experience of what had just gone on. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna go outside and look at the stars. I bet you they're out. This would be the perfect time.
Yeah.
So I go outside and I look up, cloudy skies.
Oh, yeah.
Not a star out. I'm like, man, that's a bummer. So I go back inside. I'm like, still feeling pretty good. And then I sit up against the wall again. And I'm sitting there, and 5-10 minutes go by. And then Kevin offers the offering of hape. And hape is this Amazonian tobacco snuff powder. And usually tobacco, you'll put it in a lip, whatever.
Yeah.
Smoke it out of a pipe. All sorts of different ways.
This
one is served through a pipe. Essentially, the pipe, when there's another person serving it to you, is called a karape. And they pack the tobacco powder into one end, and they stick the other end of the pipe into your nostril.
Yeah.
And then they shoot it up into your nostril. And it just blasts up into your nose.
Yeah.
So you're just hit with this tobacco and this whole grounding, reverberating experience and medicine from the Amazon jungle, like instantly. And so we had done it at the start of the retreat as kind of like an introduction to the week and grounding us in the container, but it was just a small amount. And when I was served it from John, who's the owner of the house that we stayed at, it was just a small amount, but it kind of hit me viscerally. I was like, I don't really like this. Like, this is a lot. It's a lot of energy. It's not really comfortable. You can only breathe through your mouth, because if you breathe through your nose, the tobacco will get into your lungs, into your body. So you're just like, and you're just kind of sitting with it. It's intense. Kevin offers the hape during the ceremony, which he doesn't always do, but as soon as he offers it and announces his offering, immediately I'm hit with straight up fear, like utter pure fear. I'm like, oh no, I do not want to do this.
Don't do that.
I do not want to do this. I've just gone through so much. I was like, this has already been intense. I don't want to be blasted off into the Amazon tobacco world of hape. And then I'm sitting with the fear and denying myself of doing it. And then Kevin, for whatever reason, decides to set up the ceremony and the offering of Hape, literally right in front of my mat, in between me and the fire. So there's the fire here, me against the wall. Kevin's right in between. Like, could not be more directly in front. And he sets it up in the most perfect way. There's like a little floor cushion. There's a stool. He's got his little pipe. There's a candle right next to it. He's got his chair. Divinely perfect, right in front of me.
Yeah.
And what I had written before the night in my journal was, I surrender to the wisdom, period. And I see Jay to my left, who loves Hape, can't get enough of it. He's like sitting at the edge of his mat, like a kid in a candy shop. He's like just on the edge of his seat. Can't wait to get up there. And I'm sitting like, I do not want to do this. But then I surrendered to it and I said yes for one moment. There was just like one yes. And immediately it was hit with, no, don't do it. But at that point I had already said yes. And it was like a felt commitment to it.
Yeah.
To surrender to it.
Yeah.
Jay goes up. Pascal goes up next to me. I'm like, really uncomfortable. Ram next to me goes up. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go up after Ram. I see Ram go up there. He gets up, sits crisscross applesauce. Pipe gets sticked up into his nose. It's shut. And he just goes, and it just hits him so heavy. I'm like, I do not want to do this.
Come here.
And so then it goes into the other nostril because they do both nostrils. And I'm sitting there. I don't know if I'd ever been more like timid or more fearful, but I had made the commitment. I was like, all right, I'm doing it. So Ram starts to move up. He gets up. I'm like, all right. And then I like watched my being get up and sit down in front of Kevin. And then I sit down on the floor cushion. I look to the fire as Kevin's packing the Hape in the pipe. And I looked at the fire and I felt this tsunami wave of shuddering of fear just wash over my body. Like full body shudder.
Wow.
It was wild. And I looked back at Kevin. I was like, all right, I guess we're doing this. And he sticks the pipe in, blows it on my nose. I'm like, ooh. I was like, all right, that wasn't too bad. And then he packs it again, shoots it up. Oh, and it hits me hard. I'm like, oh. And I'm just like hit with it right away, breathing through my nose. It just like goes straight into your body, straight to your stomach. Yeah. And it just like reverberates through as it's getting there. So I go back to my mat. I'm like, holy shit, this is so much. And I'm sitting against the wall, watching the fire, trying to just take it in, be with it, sit with it, get through it. 5 minutes go by, and then Ram, to my right, lurches forward and vomits right into his pupil. I'm like, what the heck? And then he farts. I'm like, I'm not going to be here if he shits himself. I'm not going to be right here. Because you can purge on both ends.
Yeah, yeah.
In ayahuasca and with Hape. I was like, I'm out. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to grab my pupil because I'm feeling nauseous at this point. And even talking about it right now, I'm kind of feeling nauseous.
Oh, yeah. And
I just go outside, hit the grass, and I look up, and all the stars are out.
Wow.
And I was like, what? I'd never been more blown away in my entire life. Wow. Because it was so unexpected. Like, I'd completely forgotten about the stars being out.
Right.
And they were just not out 30 minutes beforehand.
Yeah.
And literally, they were all out in perfect, clear abundance.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there in this seiza position with the pupil in front of me, and I'm staring up at the sky, and the stars are like moving at this point. They're like moving up and down and kind of vibrating.
Yeah.
Through the sky, almost like into the earth and then back down, kind of like a wave in the ocean. And then I'm coming back down, looking at my pupil like I have to throw up, and then going back up, like, oh, it's so amazing. Oh, I gotta throw up. And then I let out a fart. I'm like, I'm not gonna shit my pants here on the grass. Yeah. And they have a bathroom, so I retreat to the bathroom. I get inside, and that's when I pulled my pants down, sat down on the toilet, let out a couple more farts. And I was like, all right, nothing's coming out. But I ended up sitting there for the next 30 minutes. And what happened was the most clear and fast-paced replay of basically my entire life. And I came to the most obvious understanding and insight that had ever been presented to me. It was that it's all perfect. like all of it. And it
Yeah.
wasn't like able to be explained. It was a felt perfection of all of it working in divine perfection and for me and through me in ways that I can't draw up or explain or imagine.
Yeah.
It was pure perfection. And I was shaking my head. I was pants down on the toilet. My hands in my head and my head in my hands, just shaking, nodding, like, oh my God, it's so perfect. And I ended up being there for 30 minutes. But unbeknownst to me, when I got out of there, I went into the woman's side of the bathroom. And it's kind of like gender neutral, but there is an unspoken.
Yeah.
And so I go outside and there's a woman standing there. Then I remember like 20 minutes earlier, I had heard a knock on the door.
Oh no.
Oopsie daisies. And she went in and did her business. But then I sat on the grass hill and continued to just shake my head and my being in disbelief of one, what had just happened. What the heck was that? Two, the pure perfection of it, literally everything.
Yes.
And so I'm sitting there on the hill, and then I see Kevin start to offer a third cup. And I was all right, I'll go back inside. And I was like, all right, not that much. Because I was like, it felt like 5 hours had gone by in the second cup. Insane. So I take a little bit more, and then sit back up against the mat for a little bit, write something down. Kevin brings me a candle. I'm like, excellent. That's literally what I said to him. And then I went back out to the hill to stare up in the sky and document all this stuff. And then I come back inside, listen to the music, and then Kevin announces the closing of ceremony. Like, all right, we get in the circle, and we don't have any shoes on, and there's kind of this dirt patch around the fire, but it's not dirt, it's just like Mother Earth right there. And you put your feet in there, and it feels so good to be right around the fire. Everybody's close together in a circle. And so Kevin, as his custom, shares a message, and then he shares a song. So he shares his message, and then he shares a song, and the title of the song is "It's All Perfect."
Wow. Like, perfect.
What is going on right now?
Yeah.
And just couldn't help but shake my head in disbelief again at how perfect it was again.
Yeah.
And it was like the most exemplary, obvious example of it. And I just sat there and listened to the music, and it's all perfect. And I still have the song saved on my phone. It's amazing. And that whole night was amazing. So it's like a weird, this is all to say, like, the medicine of ayahuasca works in a very unique and weird way. It's just like, I don't know, it just works through you in the exact way that you need every single time. And it's tough to be in the moment and realize that. Like, how could this fear that I'm feeling right now before I go take the hot pit be like what's meant for me?
Right.
Or even other stuff of like going into the pure pit of darkness, which I had been in Austin. And like, oh, how is this meant for me? Like, this is literally the worst, darkest moment of my life.
Yeah.
How could this be good? Or how is this supposed to like be medicinal in nature? But it always ends up working that way because the light always beats the darkness.
Yeah.
Right. If there's one light in a room, it beats the darkness. The darkness does not win.
There's no dark. Yeah.
But there also isn't light without darkness. And sometimes, like for me, I just like basically had to be shown that to be true because I had never really acknowledged darkness truly. And that's like a whole another story. But yeah, it's a powerful medicine that's not meant to be taken lightly, for sure.
Yeah.
But if you give it the respect that it deserves, both yourself, but you also make the right decision to work with people that give it the respect it deserves as well.
Yeah.
You'll create the container that it deserves, and the magic will work right through you in divine perfection, as it always does.
Yeah. Going with the intention about it.
Yeah.
It's all about intention.
And even my intention going into the first retreat in Costa Rica in December of 2023 was letting go of control.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until the second retreat that I'd been on board that like processed through me with and through the medicine. And it wasn't until after, it was actually Lee that like awoken to me of like, oh, that's the thing.
Yeah.
There. And then that's when I processed it. And since that week, the degree of control that I've had has been way less. But the degree to which I felt free is exponentially more.
Yeah. How do you, like, in your daily life,
Yeah.
regular life, how do you feel about, or how does that manifest in your daily life of like letting go of control?
Letting go of control. It's also tapping into effortlessness, because when we try, like the past 3 weeks, this keeps popping up. When you try to do something, you're basically like coercing something into being, just as we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
When you're trying to control, it's antagonistic to the flow of life, because the flow of everything is infinite, and it's infinitely intelligent, divinely intelligent. And so when you try to control infinity, it's one, antagonistic, two, it presents a massive degree of tension.
Yeah.
Because you're essentially trying to coerce infinity into working into your finite desire.
Well, I think about like energies, like it's like all this energy is flowing, right?
Yes.
And we can direct where we want to go, but anytime we do that, like let's say like there's the energy, the river is flowing this way, and I want to start moving this way, there's going to be an automatic resistance because I'm slightly going against the flow that was naturally there.
Yes.
So how can I, in my life, lean into that flow as much as possible while achieving the things I want to achieve, or just accepting what is meant for me?
You can even kind of tap into it in that sense of like the energy is always going on. It's always happening.
Yeah.
There's an energy that's flowing. And when you try, there's like that tension of movement in that flow that works against it. Versus when you make it effortless and you let go and you just let it work through you, it ends up working out. And even there's been moments, and I'm trying to remember specific moments in like the past 3 weeks, where it was like, what if you stop trying?
Mm-hmm.
And asking that question kind of just moves you into effortlessness.
Yeah.
And then it just happens.
Yeah. What you really want.
It's not like we're in the kitchen when we cook something, and it's not like, oh, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to get this dish and put it over here, get the fork. Just, it's all flowing together in an effortless way.
This is something I've experienced a lot when it comes to attracting romantic relationships. Mm-hmm. Like the seeking energy, like going out and, intentionally dating and doing all this stuff, like going and trying to find a partner. I think you automatically create the resistance.
Exactly.
So for me, and what I've discovered to be true experientially is just being me authentically all the time, doing what I like doing, and being open, like keeping my heart open to that, which I want, a romantic relationship.
Exactly.
And they just come to me. Because I don't have to do anything other than just be myself and have the desire.
All that is meant to be will find its way to thee.
Say that again?
All that is meant to be will find its way to thee.
Nice.
And you can use it, will find its way to me.
Yes.
If you want to make it personal. But it's the same thing of like, it's all working in divine perfection.
Yes.
Let it do that.
Yes.
Because it's more intelligent than you.
Yes.
The whole...
The intelligence of the whole is much more intelligent than the one
than the singular, tiny, smallest speck of sand imaginable.
Yeah.
The smallest hole in the whole.
Yeah.
And I think of Matthew McConaughey. I read his book Green Lights. I actually listened to it.
Great book.
Fantastic.
I listened to it as well.
And he talks about his search for love and a romantic partner. He said he would be, he's like in his mid-30s, late 30s. He's like, oh, time's running out, clock's ticking. I gotta find her. He'd be like in the grocery store looking around the aisle, like, is she there?
Yeah.
It wasn't until he let go and detached himself from finding it.
Yes.
He's like accepted, which is a powerful thing.
Yes.
Maybe not having a partner.
Yes.
Which is powerful.
Yes.
To then it just popped up. I believe her name is, I don't know what her name is. I'm not going to mistake it, but it just popped up. She presented herself.
Yeah. And
he knew it right away. And boom, it happened.
Yes.
At 39 years old.
Yeah.
And so it's once you release the control, and like it's really releasing the neediness and the desire for things to be a certain way.
Yeah. For things you can have desires,
Yeah.
but having
I
things
mean, the
work
neediness
out
attached.
neediness
to the
is
desire.
the thing. Yeah, and for it to come to manifest in a specific way.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
It probably will happen a way you don't expect.
Exactly. Which is how it pretty much always happens.
Yes. Yes.
Which is a great, like that's highlighted by my experiences with ayahuasca or even other stuff.
Yeah.
That just like all is unfolding.
Yeah.
In ways that we can't really control.
Right. It's all meant to be.
Exactly.
You want to pull a card?
Yeah.
I just thought we should pull a card.
Wisdom of the Oracle.
Wisdom of the Oracle. Okay. Buster, put your energy into that card. Into that deck.
Leia too. We need both dogs.
Leia.
Princess Leia?
Princess Leia. I always liked the name Leia and Buster, so they just came to me when I...
Buster's a good dog name.
Yeah, great dog name. Especially for a golden retriever.
Leia's an elegant name for a female dog too.
Leia?
Yeah.
It's funny, I have a cousin. She's not a baby anymore. I don't know how old she is, but her name is Leia.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she was born right around the same time as I got them.
Wow.
So my uncle's like, why'd you name your dogs after my daughter? I'm like, it was just a funny thing.
I didn't.
I didn't, but it's funny how that happened.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Show us a message for the highest good.
Where and when did you get this deck?
I got this deck in November of last year, I think. Yeah.
Donde?
Amazon. Yeah, a woman I was seeing at the time actually put me on it. She really
it's funny
loved this deck, so I got it, and it's been very powerful for me ever since.
So the deck that I just got,
yeah,
I was in Sedona. I was in a shop, and I was walking by it, and most of the stuff there it's like all one level buildings in this specific part of Sedona that we were in. And I'm walking by, and I look to my left. There's a sign that says Heart Light. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. It was on the second floor. Okay, that's interesting. But I kept walking. I was like, kind of like kept feeling this call to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I turned and was like, we're going in. So we walk up the stairs, we go in, we look around. We get this lapis lazuli stone, which is the same thing this is.
Oh, nice.
But it's in like a big ball. It's like probably this big. I get that, and then I'm looking at all of these oracle decks, tarot cards. And then I'm looking over, and I walk away, and then I hit one right off the shelf, knocks down on the ground, spills open.
Yeah.
Cards everywhere. I'm like, oh my gosh. But then I look at the card. Oh, I find a card. There's like this one is speaking to me. I pick it up and I read it. And then I read the deck. I'm like, this deck is magic. Pure magic.
Yeah.
And I pick up another one, and it's pure magic again. And I'm like, all right, well, this deck is clearly meant to be with me. Found its way to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought it, and it's just amazing. I wish I brought it, but it wasn't meant to be here. So
yeah, it's
can surrender to that.
That's kind of how I pull cards too.
Yeah.
Just notice things in my life, like things that are just that just happen. Like, oh, that's meant for me. Like when I got that pendulum at the witch shop at the retreat, I was like, I saw that moving. I'm gonna go up to that.
Can we use that pendulum?
I actually gave it away to somebody.
You gave it away.
Yeah, it wasn't really meant for me anymore.
Interesting.
Gave it away to somebody.
But I say that to say that because after I came across this deck and I've been pulling cards every so often, like, oh, this deck is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Is that my card?
That's just the card for now.
Interesting. Come
to the edge.
I thought this was Unfinished Symphony for a second.
Oh, that would be wild.
Right?
What does that card mean to you without reading the book?
Well, before we get into this, and this is speaking to me, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, apparently. I say that to say, like, I found this deck, and I was like, this is amazing. I want another deck. because they're so much fun.
Yeah.
So I went searching, seeking
Yeah.
on Amazon, eBay, and all this stuff.
Uh-huh.
And none of the decks spoke to me because that's just not how it manifests.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard to surrender to that and be like, oh, I want another deck. But it's like the decks that are meant for me or you will find their way to me.
Yes.
It's not like going out and seeking it.
Yeah.
It's a friend giving you the deck. It's knocking over.
Guys. You having fun? Good.
They're having a blast. It's me knocking over the deck and it falling. It's like, that's just how it happens.
Yeah.
How does this card speak to me? Come to the edge. It's a woman coming to the edge of this. I don't know, kind of like a boulder thing that's flat at the top. And behind her, she's throwing back petals of love. What popped up for me was kind of a continual theme, and that seems to be a pretty constant theme around humans in general, is that like when we come to our edge, i.e. starting a podcast or kind of going to the edge of our comfort zone, that's when we find powerful things within.
Yeah.
And around.
Courage.
And then behind it, we leave trails of love.
Yeah. I never thought about it on that card, the trails of love behind it. That card, what that means to me is to fly, you got to jump. Right? There's courage.
That's cool.
Courage has been coming up a lot for me recently. I've been listening to this Tony Robbins. He had like a Time to Rise summit that was just on YouTube or online for the past few days, and a lot of powerful stuff. And he mentioned this Wizard of Oz story. You know, the Wizard of Oz movie, and how there are these. He's talking about stories in general, and how the Wizard of Oz is a good story, right? Anyways, the point of this is the character in there. One of the characters in there, the lion, who's like the cowardly lion. He's a lion, but he's also cowardly. He doesn't take the courage. I resonate with that character a lot in my own life. I'm a Leo, natural leader energy, but along the way in my life's path, I've kind of started to suppress that part of myself. And I'm over the past 2 years, and now coming around people, having conversations like this, just taking that courageous step to put myself out there in ways that I was afraid to before. And it's leading to such an amazing experience. But it all comes down to courage.
Yeah. It's coming to the edge of like, and I have a question to ask, but it's coming to the edge of you posting on Twitter of like, oh, I want to start walking the path with people, putting yourself out there in that regard.
That's right. Yeah.
Guess who hit you up every DM?
Yeah, you.
That's
right.
We're in the podcast, and it's coming to the edge that we leave behind the trail of love.
Yeah.
What I was going to ask, what could you let go of or release to transcend fear and tap into the courage in a courageous way?
Yeah, for me, what comes up is when I like about putting myself out there. I'm like, oh, it's got to be perfect, or what are people gonna think? And it's so funny because I love having conversations with people who are at the edge of doing something or not doing something, and I want to nudge them. Like that's all I want to do is like nudge them. Like, no, you're fucking amazing.
Right, you tell someone else like,
I do that for everyone, but I like have a hard time doing that for myself for some reason. So I'm actually currently exploring that, like why. And that that's led to so much procrastination and like just like putting it off, like because I'm scared to put myself out there or scared to do something new, you know?
It's like stepping into the unknown. It's almost like it's not just stepping into the unknown, it's like falling into the unknown.
Yeah. Part of it's like deconditioning for sure. Which I'm doing, and then getting in the proper states to where I'm like energized and positive about what I'm doing, and just doing it, just putting it out there, taking more action.
Also letting go of outcomes.
Letting go of that's a big thing. Yeah, that's right. Like it doesn't have to be anything, which is how I live my life. But when it comes to doing something like that, part of me is like, it feels slightly performative.
What's like that?
What do you mean?
You said when it comes to doing something like that.
Oh, like a creative endeavor like the podcast or doing video. Like video, I did a couple Instagram videos in the past that were just kind of natural off the dome. They felt great, but I'm like, that's an edge for me. Even like a video podcast is an edge for me, but not anymore. Like, I don't know. There's judge myself way more than I need to, you know?
And it's always like we come to the edge and we realize the edge is so much further. Then we come to that edge.
Yeah, it's more
exploring. It's way further than that. And there's always so much more.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's someone that's like, there's different edges that manifest in different ways. Like if you stay in Antarctica for long enough with no clothes on, GG's in the chat. You've come to the edge, and your physical body will perish. But I don't know, in like kind of the spiritual, courageous sense, there's almost always more.
There's an infinite amount of unknown. There's always more to know. There's always more to explore, more to learn, more lessons. There's different lessons at each level or of expansion or whatever, at each edge.
It's beyond it.
So, hey, I'm going to jump this edge, and then, hey, you might land somewhere, and you're going to discover a new edge.
Exactly.
Do you want to keep jumping?
Yeah, it's like, that's part of it too. I think you tweeted, the rest of your life begins now. How will you direct it?
That's
Something
right.
like that.
That's right.
Yeah. It's like, will you keep jumping? Keep going to the edge? But it's like uncomfortable to do that.
Yeah.
And some people, I mean, even me in the past, are like, discomfort? Oh, nah. I don't want to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But then once you realize, like, kind of coming to the edge is the way, and that's like what leads to all of the beautiful things, like me moving to Austin sight unseen, me moving to Jacksonville, Florida, essentially sight unseen.
Yeah.
Coming to the edge, me walking into a Toastmasters club for the first time, me starting a podcast.
Yeah.
Reaching out to you. It's like all of the things come from coming to the edge.
Yeah.
So you kind of make that the target in a sense.
Yeah.
And then letting go of the outcomes as what happens as a result.
Yeah. The rest of your life begins at the edge.
Yeah, that's crazy. I saw another tweet on your account, and I saw it today as we were getting started, and I wrote it down. It was a picture that you had retweeted, and it said, whatever makes you the weirdest or whatever makes you weird is probably your greatest asset.
Yeah.
So what makes you weird?
What makes me weird?
And even further, what makes you the weirdest? Both things.
I don't know if this makes me weird, but I just want to live life on my own terms and help other people do that. What is weird about me? I like joking around, being goofy with people. I like to play piano. None of these things are being weird or I'm the weirdest at. I'm really in the psychedelic woo-woo realm. I guess my past self would say my woo-woo self now is very weird, right?
Right.
So maybe that's it. But what is weird about me? I don't know.
What is weird?
What is weird
Not
about
normal? Because normal...
Yeah, what is weird? Like, I don't even know what that...
Well, normal is, the definition, at least when I looked at one time, is conforming to a standard.
Okay, yeah.
And that's the big word is conforming.
Yeah.
That's
dangerous
territory.
I'm just like, I don't want to have anything to do with that word. Don't put me in a box. Don't label me. I don't want that. I can label myself, right? But I don't want to be labeled. I don't want someone else to put me in a box. I want to be able to choose the boxes. We always get to choose.
Right.
Right? That's the whole point of that tweet of the rest of your life begins here. How will you direct it? You get, at every moment, you get to choose.
Right.
So at every moment, wherever you are, you can get to wherever you want to go just by way of choosing a new path. Doesn't matter where you are.
I completely lost my train of thought.
Yeah, sorry.
That's me, because I was staring out the window. There's this like rave going on in one of these buildings.
Is it really?
It's not like a full.
Oh, it's
like
some
these
light
neon
across.
lights. They're flashing.
Well, maybe I won't say this. There's like I think there's a gambling house.
Oh yeah.
Like right next to this building, like this complex.
Gambling house, as in like, let's play blackjack. Let's play poker. Let's play.
Yeah, other things.
Full on.
Yeah.
Underground scene.
Yeah, I think it's an underground thing. I like walked by it. The door was open one time. They had an armed guard outside.
An armed guard.
Yeah.
In this complex?
Not in this complex, but right next to it.
But like in this housing community.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah.
How could you embrace your weirdness more?
Just be myself as much as possible. Like, I love shooting the shit with friends.
Yeah.
Right? And being goofy and talking about things that are, probably inappropriate, but fun to talk about because it's comedy, right? I've been getting sucked into the comedy vortex a lot lately.
Nice.
So I think really tapping into that and what that opens you up to is like, back to something you said earlier, it's about it's all being perfect. Everything is reality. All the weird, even like darker parts of us are part of the reality. Can you accept them?
For sure.
Because if you can't, you're not really aligning with this whole experience. And I think I posted something about abundance and aligning with abundance. So like something about if you judge people for spending money on pleasures that you disagree with, then you're not really aligning with abundance. Because abundance is all of this. Like, is the reason we're experiencing everything we have to experience here,
And acceptance is a form of bringing light onto the darkness.
Right.
And then once you do that, well, then you brought light in. Right? The darkness doesn't win.
Yeah.
The light wins, ultimately.
Yeah.
But it can be tough to do that.
What's your weird?
What's my weird?
Yeah. What's your weird? I have to tweet.
Yeah. Let it rip.
That's right.
Save that one on the back burner. What's my weird? I don't know. I have a very naturally inquisitive and curious nature about things.
Yeah.
But I'm also one thing is I seek the most optimal. I'm kind of like a mushroom, like in the sense of I seek the most optimal.
Yeah.
Seek whatever. I like finding the most optimal strategy. Like last night, I got into this weird mini rabbit hole. Have you ever been to a Super Bowl party and they play squares? Where they put squares and you get to pick 5 and it's just completely random.
Yeah.
So I searched up what's the optimal strategy for playing Super Bowl squares just to see what it was like. I spent like half an hour going down like Reddit threads and like these other links, and then I actually found like a table of probabilities for the optimal strategy to. There's 2 schools of thought. One is to increase your chances the most of winning at least 1 square.
Yeah.
Chances. The other is to increase your chances the most of winning big, so winning 2 or more squares. And so I have found the table for it, and it's like cool for me to do that. Like I'm just naturally inquisitive in that way. And then, kind of in line with that, I have a very strong inclination for accuracy. Like it comes from many things. It's like sports for one too.
Yeah.
Also writing. I don't know where it comes from, honestly. It's just part of my weirdness. It's like I like things accurate and writing, punctuation, grammarly correct, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But it can. The way that manifests on the flip side is perfectionism.
Yes.
And that's a very dangerous line to walk.
Yeah.
And something that I've kind of let go of a lot the past like 2 years is not having to be perfect, because what is perfect anyways? It's always moving the goalposts.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be like, okay, there's this painting here. Is it a line perfect? Okay, it looks perfect.
Yeah.
But perfect is also subjective too.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the flip side. And then the weirdness is like I have this, like I sleep on a tatami mat, essentially the floor.
Yeah.
Like, that's weird. Nobody that I know. Actually, my cousin started to do that, which is really cool. But I don't know. I just have like a relentless inclination to do things to the best of its ability, or the best of my ability.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the Capricorn nature, is like to get to the top of the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if there's like a better way of doing something, or a better way of storing my money, or a better way of walking, or like a better way of sleeping, or a better way of wearing shoes and putting things into my body, et cetera, like I'm on the hunt for it constantly.
Yeah.
So that's part of my weird too.
You're an explorer.
For sure. For sure. Like if I was in late 1400s, early 1500s Europe, I'm on the boat going across the sea.
Yeah.
Like, let's go find out.
Oh, they're up there.
What are you looking for?
The toothpicks. I thought I had them in my pocket.
Go grab one. We'll both pop one.
Do you want one?
Yeah.
Okay. What's up,
Get that nicotine popping. Is it the peppermint watermelon?
Yeah. I don't know if you like that flavor.
It's doable.
Oh my gosh, it was in my pocket. It was just in the one that I don't normally have it in.
Boop. I love that noise. I want to do that as close as possible to the mic.
It's like have you done this?
That's good stuff. That's good content right there.
Great content.
It's turned into an ASMR podcast really quickly.
That's right.
I like the aesthetic of a toothpick.
Sponsored by Zippix Toothpicks.
Unofficially sponsored.
Unofficially.
Sponsored by Letting Go, too.
Sponsored by Letting Go.
The Pathway of Surrender.
Wisdom of the Oracle.
I wonder if there's something in here.
4 Agreements. Great book.
No, there's something in here, actually. Ready?
As I'll ever be.
Not knowing is true knowledge. Presuming to know is a disease. First realize that you are sick, then you can move toward health. The master is her own physician. She has healed herself of all knowing. Thus, she is truly whole. How do you interpret that?
Say that last part again, the last 2 lines.
The master is her own physician. She has healed herself of all knowing. Thus, she is truly whole.
Healed herself of all knowing. I interpret that as meaning you don't truly know.
Yeah.
You've healed yourself of this needing to know or thinking that you can know everything.
Yeah. Which
leads to the last part of it, which said what? The last line?
She is truly whole.
Truly whole, right. Yeah, yes. Because this whole experience, once you accept that you don't know, you'll never know as much as there is to know, that's when you realize that's what this experience is.
Not knowing is true knowledge.
Yeah.
Because it's all the unknown.
Yeah.
Fate or free will.
Yeah. Like what's going to happen
What
in the
do we
next...
pretend to know? Presuming to know is a disease.
Yeah. I think, that's something that really bugged me over the years growing up, and then especially in like politics where people like claim to know the right or wrong way or do it this way. It's like, oh man, I detached so much from that whole way of being in society. It's like, no one actually knows. And anyone who claims to know something, like, oh, this is the way. It's like, no, everyone has their unique path.
Yeah.
Everyone has something could work for you that doesn't work for somebody else.
And it's also, I think the beginning of true learning journeys is admitting not knowing.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is removing basically all preconceived notions, concept labels that you've thrust onto it in a biased way, or just, presuming to know, which is a disease.
That's something that I definitely had that disease. Where it's like, I already know a lot. I already know it all. I know that I'll figure it out the way it's supposed to be figured out, which that's okay. But being afraid of, there was a part of me that was like, yeah, I know everything. Not know everything, but I know enough.
Right.
And then there's a part of learning that's not the way and realizing that. And then there's a part of being kind of afraid of being the beginner for fear of being judged that I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I'm 30 years old. I should know this by that time, right? But deconditioning myself from that belief. That was a big one for me for a while.
There's also the not knowing of what other people are actually, how other people are judging you, and accepting the not knowing, and presenting that however they judge you, they don't actually know too, as well.
Right.
So we're on the same plane of not knowing.
Right.
So it's like, what does the judgment even really mean or add up to?
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
That's why know-it-alls are
Yeah. There are people who are smart and know a lot, but like, hey.
They know a lot?
What's that?
They know a lot?
No.
So what makes a smart person then? Intelligence, natural? Is it like an ability to understand things, to grasp new concepts?
Depending on like smart in what context, right? Like,
all right, people are smart in different contexts.
Yeah, there's different ways to be smart. You could have a high IQ. You could have the ability to like critically think. You could have the ability to like intuit how someone's feeling. Right, that's a different level of intelligence, like emotional intelligence.
I think, and this actually just brought me back to something I learned in my Bitcoin learning process, which truly began at the moment where I was like, I'm stupid about Bitcoin. Like I don't know anything about it, and I had to like accept that. Like I literally had a question, multiple pages document filled with questions about Bitcoin. I was like, I don't know the answer to any of these.
Yep.
It wasn't until I like, all right, accepted that and then dived in. But I learned, and I say this, my claim is that I think pretty much everybody has their own unique gifts, and their own, maybe what we would call smarts that are inherent to them and their nature, and they can present.
Yes.
The way that gets boxed out in modern day times is through school, because that just presents the ultimate box of learning and expression to these kids. Like, no, you can't express yourself in this way. You have to learn this. Or no, you're bad if you express this way. You have to express yourself this way. Versus like opening it up to basically allowing them to tap into what they're naturally curious about, which is their natural unique gifts that they then tap into with, some degrees of structure, perhaps basic mathematics and etc.
Yeah.
But the more we present the box and the smaller the box is, the more we restrict the gifts. And this is something that I learned again in my Bitcoin process writing the book, was that NASA actually did a study years ago, and they found that it was basically 98% of 3-year-olds had what they deemed to be creative intelligence. And then by the time they were 15, it was under 20%.
Wow.
98% of young kids.
Yeah.
Which, okay, how many of those from 0 to that age?
Yeah.
Lost the creative intelligence, and then they get to 15, and then they get to 18, and then they go through college.
Yeah, we all have it when we're creative.
Born with it.
Exactly. And then we forget it.
The gifts are inherent.
That's a big part of a lot of people's journey now, is like remembering who we are.
Yeah.
Who we actually are, and how are we helping others do that? How are we empowering others to realize this parts of themselves? You don't have to go find some way of being that's outside of yourself.
Exactly.
You have it all within you.
Yeah.
You don't have to follow this path. You don't have to follow that path. You can do it your own unique way. You can look to others as like guides. You're like, hey, I kind of want to explore that, or I want to explore that. But at the end of the day, you have it all within you to do whatever you want to do.
And then everyone comes back to, but what about money?
That's such a big question.
So,
one
of the most profound and important reasons for why Bitcoin matters so much, ultimately, is that it gives us our time back and frees our time to then tap into our unique inherent gifts and explore that fully.
Yeah.
And increasingly over time, as the money becomes worth more and more and more, so that we can find that and discover that which is already there, versus, I have to work for more. I have to work more hours to make money because my money is now worth less.
Yeah. But the concept of money is so interesting. The way my brain works and how I like to explore, I like to go to the extremes. And I've thought this recently, like, what would life look like? Like, do we need the concept of money anymore? Like, what would life look like without a concept of money?
It's theoretically possible that you wouldn't need it, but it also serves as coordination and information.
Yeah.
And it creates an incentive structure to create prosperity and abundance. Like, someone created this chair, okay, because they did it, right? They gave themselves to it, but also they're on the back end receiving money as a result of producing the chairs, so that they can go out and produce things.
Yeah.
And create abundance.
One thing I've been thinking about recently is like when money was first created, it was like a way to, instead of me trading you for what I created directly,
yes,
we had this
medium of exchange
that I can trade in and then go and buy what else I need, what else I want later, right? And that's like the true value of money.
Yes.
And nowadays, it's like money has been so warped, and then all the systems created around it that just deal in money that seem unnecessary, like any mechanisms or any I don't know how to exactly say this, but anything that's not tied to being a medium of exchange from one good or service to another, it seems like it's not necessary.
You've had a nauseating amount of resources dedicated to the financialization of the economy as a result of the money failing as a savings tool.
Yeah.
Right? Because if I earn the US dollar, and this is the best one out of all of the ones accepted around the world today commonly, I am guaranteed to lose my money's value over time, which is wild, right? But that means that, well, then it's stupid for me to hold on to the US dollar. So that, what does that mean? I have to put it somewhere else. So this has created the incentive for so many financial instruments and indexes to fulfill the need of money as a savings tool.
Yeah.
401ks, retirement accounts, index funds, stock ETFs through the roof. All of the stuff which, especially retirement accounts and 401ks, keeps you trapped in the system because you can't use your money until a certain day, and if you do, then you're penalized, and they'll penalize you.
Yeah.
Like think about all of the human hours and the money, the natural resources that have gone to creating financial products and instruments for us to save our money adequately. It's insane.
Yeah. Yes, right?
It's insane.
That's what I'm talking about.
It's like, literally nauseating versus having a money that not only is a good savings tool, is the best savings tool.
Yeah.
So that we can just earn it, be like, cool. I don't have to do anything with it right now.
Yeah.
Because right now it's like, okay, if I earn the US dollar and I want to store my value adequately, which everyone would kind of have the smarts to do that.
Yeah.
Or to think that. Well, then they have to risk it again to keep its value. I have to put it in a stock and hope that the stock does well.
Yep.
Put it in a U.S. government bond and hope that the U.S. does well.
Yeah.
And that it outperforms inflation.
Yep.
All of these things versus, okay, I can just hold it in a protocol that has an open source, transparent, fixed monetary policy that everybody and anybody can see in the world at any time.
Yeah.
Anybody can verify its supply. And there's nobody that can control or manipulate that monetary policy, which dictates there's only a finite amount of it, right? So if you're trying to store your monetary energy, like if you go work 5 hours, and you earn $100, you'd be wise to store 100% of that monetary energy for as long as you want to store it until you use it. But anytime new supply is introduced to the system that you store your money in, that debases your energy. So let's say you had 10 houses in a 100 house real estate market. You'd have 10% of the energy within that system, right?
Yep.
Okay, if there's still 100 houses 10 years from now, you still have 100% of the 10 that you originally stored. But then all of a sudden 100 new houses are built. So there's 200 houses. You still have your 10 that you originally stored, but now you have 5% of the energy within that system.
Mm-hmm.
So you've had your energy debased, taken from you. So the ultimate system of monetary energy is a system that's absolutely scarce, that can never be inflated.
Yeah.
And thus your energy can never be debased, which is Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Which is why it's the greatest savings tool.
Where are you at in the book writing process?
I'm finishing Bitcoin Not Crypto chapter right now.
Which chapter is that?
It's 13.
13, nice.
And this one was this has been one of the longest chapters because I wrote 20 pages. Then I was like, oh, I would actually sometimes get like shake out on how like not good I felt about it. Structurally, how it pieced itself together as a story.
Yeah.
I was like, this is just not it. So then I kept all of it, created a bunch of space, and then now I've written almost 20 pages again, but restructuring it, presenting new ideas, basically rewrote most, like 85 to 90% of the chapter. But it was like, okay, I feel so much better about it.
Yeah.
It's like, that's fine. And
yeah.
I also, I'm not sure if you saw my tweet, but I like released the energy of having it, of needing to have it be published at a certain date.
Nice.
Which is like,
feel like a relief?
Yeah. And it happened in the Denver airport coming home from Sedona. And it happened on the heels of Hoos, something that he said in the car on the way home. He was like, right, we have an energy battery, if you can imagine, within us at all times. And it's always at 100%. But there's energy that uses up that energy within it. Think about all the energy that you assign to unrealized goals, promises, all of the future stuff that hasn't manifested itself, and all the energy that you give to like the neediness there.
Yeah.
Versus releasing it and all of the energy. And I literally felt it as he said it. And I started like releasing it in that moment. I was like, whoa. The energy started freeing itself up. And then I was in the Denver airport on the way home, and I was writing my book in the airport while listening to heart chakra frequency. And I turned it on, and within like 3 seconds, I had noise canceling headphones on. Within 3 seconds, I immediately felt immense gratitude for the ability and the opportunity and the blessing to write the Bitcoin thesis itself. Like that as a creative endeavor, just so much gratitude for it. And then I started processing the energy that I had assigned to having it needed to be published, you know, in April or October, whenever.
Yeah.
And like all of the energy that's stored within me, and like the control that kind of inserted itself into through me, if that makes any sense. Like it has to be published at this date. It just creates like tension into the infinite flow. And what I wrote about, then I actually wrote a newsletter post about it and tweeted about it too, is that like the universe called on me for whatever reason to create this thing because it wants me to create it, not because it wants me to complete it by a certain date.
Right.
So the energy that is most meant for me and is most optimal for me in that project is me creating it.
Yeah.
And so that's where my energy is going now, because I've released all the energy of it needing to be completed by XYZ date.
Yeah.
That's not the focus. That's not what the universe wants for me. And it's through opening the heart by playing these frequencies that I like fully process that and release it. And even like there's still, it's way less than it was, but there's still even now like, oh, but I want it to be published in August, you know, or whatever. Like, oh, chapter 13 and there's 21 chapters. I'm like, I'm not going to look back and say like I enjoyed finishing it. I enjoyed writing it and creating it. So that's
and learning from it, exploring it.
Exactly.
The conversations you had along the way.
Exactly. The process.
The process.
The creative process.
Yeah.
And so that's what I've been giving my energy to. And it's just like, all right.
Such a powerful concept. Like, I'm realizing how much energy I put towards worrying about the timing of something or how it's going to look, or putting energy towards wondering about what I should be focusing on, like instead of just like following the thing that you want to create, following what you naturally desire to do, and just going full force into that. And all the other stuff doesn't exist at that time.
Exactly.
You know?
And it's an effortless flow that resonates and is centered from and is actually amplified from here, the heart, which is why I think playing that frequency allowed me to.
Is it on Spotify?
Yeah, there's like a whole playlist.
Can you send it to me?
100%.
Thank you.
And it's magical. It's just like, I don't know how it works like that. But I guess love is a frequency, right? And heart chakra specifically. In this instance, So just tapping into that, it was amazing because the feeling of like starting the music and just like that, I felt immediate, like heartfelt gratitude and love for the project. And then
You want to play it right now?
Yeah,
put it on the background.
Let's do it. It's a full playlist. I added a couple into my, I don't know what you would call it. It's a playlist I made for an MDMA experience, actually. And I keep adding onto.
Ooh, interesting.
It's pretty magical.
What was your MDMA experience?
This is back in late October, actually.
Okay.
Maybe even early November. First time I ever did it. Only time I've ever done it so far. It was wild because I probably took like 115 milligrams. Right around that. I didn't have like an exact dosage. But I spent probably like 2 to 2.5 hours fully naked in my bed, in my room, just like shaking and releasing energy that was stored in my body.
Wow, nice.
And I swear I've 100% felt lighter since that day within my body.
You did this alone?
Yeah, this was just a solo MDMA trip.
Nice.
And I had the music playing too, and it's a pretty awesome medicine.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. And that even somewhat after, there were maybe like a few times where I would just like need to shake things out. And I was like, what? Because I'd actually read about someone's MDMA experience a couple days beforehand. Where they had said, it's actually this, I believe it's the CEO of the publishing company that I'm working with.
Whoa.
Published his like long form write up on his MDMA. It's kind of held in like a clinical setting where like there's a facilitator, and I think his wife was there too.
Yeah.
But he talked about how he was like shaking and releasing that stuff too. So I was like looking into it more, and I heard about through somebody that I met at a conference in August in Colorado called Do Hard Things, who works with like somatics and bodily release like that.
Yeah.
That animals actually do the same thing when they go through traumatic experiences. And I looked up a video of it to verify for myself. And I watched a video on YouTube, you could find it if you want, of an antelope getting attacked by a cheetah and like faces death right there, and it's on camera.
Yeah.
But then the cheetah somehow runs away, lets go of the antelope. And the antelope lies there for maybe like 30 seconds. And then you see it get up, and then it just starts shaking. And it just starts like shaking all of this traumatic energy out. And there's that book, Your Body Keeps the Score.
Yeah.
It's funny, I was even thinking about this earlier today.
There's another book.
All of the
Eastern Body, Western Mind.
All of the, because energy is flowing through us all the time.
Yes.
Anything that's repressed or not fully felt is then kept within and stored inside of our bodies.
Yes.
And it's most often the things that we repress are like the fears or the anxieties or the traumas, whatever it is.
Yeah, so we're like shameful about that we experience. It's like,
so we hold on to it, and then it just stores and coagulates and coagulates and coagulates.
Yes.
It becomes denser and denser and denser. And if we never let it out somehow, then it just stays in there. And there's a whole lot that stays in there for people.
Yeah, I think I'm in that process. I believe I still have a lot of energy that needs to be released. Like when I think about, I'll get really teary-eyed or like wanting to just cry when I like start thinking about powerful subjects or like the suffering that people go through or the journey that I've gone on. And it's like, and I try to hold it back sometimes because I'm just fearful of being seen like that if I'm around other people, or it's like I don't want to feel that right now, but it's there. I released some things, still very much on the path of releasing more.
A process because feelings are meant to be felt.
Yeah.
1, 2, all feelings are sacred equally. Yes. And feelings that are not fully felt because you associate shame with them.
Yeah.
And guilt. Yeah. And there's different ways that manifests from childhood or whatever.
Yeah.
Then they get stored in there. And that's why I think plant medicines and medicines that like essentially move energy in the most efficient ways, which tend to be these really penetrative, deep medicine. It's not taking a Xanax,
Yeah.
just numbing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's actually some energy via the medicine is penetrating into that feeling and doing whatever it does. And different plant medicines do different things. Right? MDMA kind of stems from the heart and emanates from there.
Yeah.
And it's a whole process.
Yeah.
Versus.
Yeah, my MDMA experience, I took 325 milligrams. But I was still only in like talking mode.
Wow.
I was like, I had a facilitator, and
when was this?
When?
Yeah.
November, December? No, it was January. It was sometime this year, early this year.
Kind of right before the retreat.
It was before it was like a week before the retreat, actually. That's right. And I was like moving a bit, but I didn't fully express myself, like in the physical sense. But I was talking a lot. I feel like there's a part of me that wants to talk a lot because maybe want to be heard and wants the stories to be heard. And there's also the part of the physical part that needs to come out too, like the actual energy.
For sure.
But yeah, I took 325 milligrams, and I still felt like I didn't get fully expressive. You know what I mean? So whether that's just me like being very good at holding things back, which I think I have gotten very good at that over the years.
Have you ever done it solo?
No, but now that you mention that, I might tap into that next, to be honest.
Interesting. Because ayahuasca is always with the ceremony, pretty much.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I've done mushrooms, like 9. I don't
Yeah.
know, 7 of them have been by myself.
Yeah. I'm usually always by
MDMA was
myself
by
with experiences.
But I think there is power too in the expression with other people as well. Like even, I've never been under the influence of mushrooms around that many people before. I'd only done it with one other person. Was that the other time? So it was like an experience to open myself up energetically to that container with other people. Energies in that way, which is interesting.
Yeah, I just want to say that since the music turned on, the whole vibe has shifted. Like this very much feels more. I don't know. We're already tapped in, but like
heart-centered.
Heart-centered. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. This reminds me of a ketamine experience I had, and I was like recording a note, and there was music on in the background. I think this is important to have stuff like this playing, even through conversations like this.
That's true. There's a different vibration now.
Yeah.
It's just
I'm excited to listen to this more and more.
It's a full playlist, and
it's powerful.
Powerful music too.
Yeah.
Because sound is energy as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's works our way. Sound can like work and massage some of the things out.
Exactly. I can even feel it kind of in my heart now. Which is wild.
Yeah.
And it's also wild that I could just pull out this thing, my phone, go to Spotify, press play, and a heart-centered frequency starts playing.
Yeah. Thank you, technology. Thank you.
Thank you, God.
Humans. Thank you, God. And thank you, everyone who
made
that phone. Love. Yeah.
It's The Genuine Heart of Sadness. This book talks about how when you get to like the bottom of the heart, there's just sadness there. Because, and I think and I was actually talking this with Brad on the hike, of like, the love when you tap all the way in, it's so tender that you can't help but just shed a tear. I'm even getting a little emotional now thinking of like going all the way down into the genuine heart of sadness. I think that's amazing. The cocoon. Let's see. Through the practice of sitting still and following your breath as it goes out and dissolves, you are connecting with your heart by simply letting yourself be as you are, you develop genuine sympathy towards yourself. I might have to start reading that because that was pretty powerful.
Yeah. How long have you had that book?
Probably like 2 years.
2 years?
A little bit over.
Nice.
Probably. I got this book from reading a book called Zen Golf.
Okay.
I played golf in high school, and
Zen, nice.
I love just, maximizing my capabilities. But I actually did. That's like a whole interesting thing because I played golf out of like trying to be good.
Yeah.
Instead of for the love of the game.
Yeah.
In like an effortless way.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I played golf in December after not having touched a club for at least 5 months and really practicing like twice throughout the entirety of 2024. Played in December, played 9 holes. I shot a 37, which is one of the best 9-hole rounds that I've had. It's in like the top 15 or something.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I literally just went out there. I had these shoes on, not even my normal golf shoes. Used someone else's set of clubs. And I said, I'm just going to swing the ball and play because I'm going to feel and just swing effortlessly.
Yeah.
And I played as well as I ever have. Just from a pure effortless state, not trying to be anything.
Yes. Just the pure flow of it, the fun of it.
The pure creativity, the pure essence of it.
Yeah.
Of playing, really.
Yes. Yeah, yes. I played football over much of my life and in college. But during that time, I was not in it for the fun of it. I was still dealing with stuff from like coping with my parents' divorce and all this stuff. And I was not in it. I was so in my head. And I think about like where I'm at now and going back to having fun, just playing games, like how much better I would have been just in my entire life. Just my security in myself, my pride in myself, and the game itself, because of being a flow. There are times I got into it, but a lot of it was like, no. I like remember back when I was a kid playing basketball, just super in flow, and like I remember this one play. I don't know, it was probably like 7th grade basketball, and I was like falling near the free throw line, and I just threw it up, and it went in. It's like those things. It's like that's just natural. It's just like natural feeling.
The creative expression of it.
Yeah.
For that sake of it, not like
yeah
needing a son an outcome from it, or like even I don't know. What was the reason why you got into football?
I almost didn't even play football in high school. I played it in middle school. I didn't really like it. Didn't actually really like the game, to be honest. I mean, it was fun and all the glory and stuff being good at it because I'm a bigger guy.
What position did you
play? In college, I played tight end. In high school, I played like everything. O-line, D-line, a bit of linebacker, some running back, a lot of stuff, right?
Wow.
Kind of like an overall athlete.
Okay.
And I almost didn't even play in high school, but the guys did kind of convince me to. And I'm glad I did. I wouldn't be here exactly where I am right now without that path. But yeah, it was never really a fun sport for me. And I look back and I'm like, okay, what's fun about football? What's fun about football is like throwing the ball back and forth.
Yeah.
Right? That's really it. I don't really care to be a blocking tight end or any of that, all that part of it, right?
Yeah. I think the best performers in anything are the ones that enjoy it naturally and the most.
Right. So like how can in your everyday life, no matter if you're playing sports or doing whatever you're doing, what do you love about it? Like, do you absolutely love what you're doing? Because if you can find that, you're golden.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, I won't say unfortunately, it's all meant to be, but we're collectively coming out of this where more and more people are realizing what they actually want to do. And how can we as individuals and collectively and like the systems we create, how can we empower people and enable people to do the thing they love in the most, right? And like, how can we create a society where that's the goal for everything, rather than, oh, I have to survive to make I have to make money to survive, and that means I have to do something I don't like doing, right? And there are lessons in all of that, right? So we're not gonna eradicate that completely, but we can create a better life collectively for everyone than we experienced. I think that's one of my goals.
That's like, I think why Bitcoin calls me so much is because in creating the society and the system and the structure for us to be able to tap into our hearts and what we truly love, to be able to express it fully, we, like, for better or for worse, money is the foundation of our society.
Yeah.
It's the thread running through everything. Every single thing in this room is connected to money.
Yes.
Everything we're wearing.
Yeah.
Other than maybe like, our physical bodies and our spirits and stuff like that. It just is. And so it creates essentially what the foundation of the world is of course going to impact what's built and expressed on top of it. Yes. So we have a broken foundation where money is a form of energy, right?
Yep.
If I own the US dollar and the US dollar is controlled and manipulated by the US government and the Federal Reserve, my energy is being controlled and manipulated by the US government and the Federal Reserve. Yeah. And that's the foundational level of society right now. Yeah. Is energy fundamentally being controlled and manipulated by somebody else, by an elite group, by an elected group of politicians. Yeah. Which such a fundamental structure creates the incentive for no good, greedy people to get to the top to access the power. Yep. Because they want the power, they want the manipulation, they want the ability to print money at will. And the closer you get to that money printer, the more power that will come to you. Yeah. So it incentivizes, I'm not going to say the worst of people, but people that maybe don't have the best intentions behind them, their actions. Yeah. So if we're going to have a system to get into power. Yeah. So if we're going to have a system, let's create one that gives us the best chance at flourishing and building out of love instead of control and greed, building out of empowerment. And this is even something I get into in my Bitcoin Not Crypto chapter, which I'm writing right now. Bitcoin was born from the heart of Satoshi Nakamoto. Yeah. He bred his idea and gave it to the world out of love, because he wanted to free every single human being from the chains of the monetary slave masters once and for all, forever. Of course, his invention gained immense value. And it wasn't until 2 years later, 2011, where other cryptocurrencies saw that. Not even other cryptocurrencies. Other people saw that and said, well, what if I create my own token and then I can get a piece of that value? Yeah. But what is that idea born out of? Greed. Yeah. It's the same thing of like, okay, how do I make as much money as quickly as possible? It's because the society which those ideas mostly sprouted from came from the structure now of like,
how can I make money out of this?
Right. Exactly. How can I get money as quick as possible?
Yeah, everything is like, oh, how much money are we going to make? What's it going to cost? Like, fuck.
Because if your money lost 100% of value the next day, you'd be sweating to get as much money tomorrow, like as fast as possible. If your money gained 100%, you're like, all right, I don't really need to worry about making money. Yeah. Satoshi broke through the fundamental structure of money and really society to birth Bitcoin, give it to us out of love. And he didn't know it was going to work. Yeah. He offered it. Yeah. Because he saw a flaw and wanted to fix it out of love. Yeah. Out of kindness. And that's why there's such a difference between Bitcoin and crypto. Yeah. Because essentially the TLDR is that Bitcoin cannot be replicated. Like, there's only one absolutely scarce monetary system that has the highest degree of credibility in enforcing that. And you can't, because it's not able to be surpassed in its credibility. Because if I create a new cryptocurrency that's the same thing as Bitcoin, but it starts from zero,
Yeah.
And you're making the decision of where to store your monetary energy. Are you going to choose me that has my system, that has no credibility, there's no computing power protecting the network, or are you going to choose the more credible one?
Right.
You're going to choose the more credible one. So Bitcoin was the first one that worked, and so people started assigning value to it. And it was the only one in existence for 2 years.
Yeah.
And it was the first cryptographic money that ever worked. It was the first cryptographic money that ever had a single penny of monetary value assigned to it. It was the first one ever. So it had that value assigned to it for 2 years. That gave it that head start.
Yes.
That survival phase that's unable to be repeated and surpassed. That made it the most credible one. So that any new one that was coming in, because again, you can't have a better monetary system of energy than one that's absolutely scarce, that stores 100% of your energy. So if I create another absolutely scarce one, it's the same thing as Bitcoin, but it's less credible. So the market is going to choose the more credible one over and over and over and over and over again, which is why Bitcoin has always been at the top, 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Because the market cares about survival inherently.
Yeah.
And if I'm making the decision on where to store my energy, my monetary energy, and I have an inherent gear towards survival, I'm going to choose the most credible, absolutely scarce network if I care about surviving, which I do.
Yeah.
But then you have other cryptocurrencies. Any cryptocurrency that doesn't have marketing or like a team advertising it to the public, it just gets washed away. It gets beaten because it's not Bitcoin, essentially. Yeah. But then you have XRP and Ethereum and Solana that have venture capitalists. They have Vitalik Buterin, all these centralized figures, the CEO of XRP meeting with Trump, going on 60 Minutes, blasting out marketing pieces of information, say, hey, buy my coin, buy my coin, buy my coin. And it's only because they have those marketing things and they can influence people and manipulate them that they survive against Bitcoin, but still they can't surpass it.
Yeah. It's like those are bred out of the still latching onto the old system.
And it's the same manifestation of centralization.
Yeah. We want to create a new system
that has nothing to do with any bit of human manipulation.
Yeah.
And can never be manipulated by anybody. Because why does money need to be controlled by 12 central bankers?
Exactly. Yeah, why can't we now that we're like so globally connected, there's a need for like, I want to trade with someone across the world, but I don't want to jump through the fucking hoops of nation to nation to nation and all the governmental controls and regulations. Like I just want to, at the heart, I just want to trade energy with someone.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't need someone else to tell me how to do that. Like,
exactly.
It's about empowerment again.
It's also, part of it is how to do it. Part of it is that it's okay. Like it has to, like if I'm sending energy to you, right, monetarily, why do I need someone else to come in the middle and say, it's good, it works with me? That's just a gatekeeper.
Exactly.
A potential manipulator.
Exactly.
And say, nope, your transaction isn't allowed.
Yeah.
But we came to the agreement.
Yeah.
Okay, well then there's a deal.
Yeah.
We don't need someone in the middle. And that's the whole idea of Bitcoin.
In so many ways, we're realizing our own power.
Yeah.
As individuals and then as part of a community of individuals who work harmoniously together.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like why I care about Bitcoin so much, because tapping into our heart matters so much.
Yeah.
And laying the groundwork and the framework and the foundation for us to be able to do that to the highest degree.
Yeah.
What can be more crucial?
Yeah. It's like bridging this gap.
Yeah.
Between logic and love.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not trying to logic our way through like, the interest rate needs to be this. And we need to print this much money. And
I know, what's the essence of what we're trying to do? What's the intention that will prevail over all these other trying to control outcomes?
And it's also cool that like Bitcoin couldn't exist without the internet.
Yeah.
It couldn't exist with everything else that came before it. Zeros and ones. Couldn't exist without the invention or the discovery of the number 0, which we didn't always have as a civilization. It was only discovered, hundreds of years ago. Where then we were able to use it to create binary code for computers, zeros and ones, which is what Bitcoin runs on.
Right.
So it's just a progression of the advancement.
Yeah.
That's always happening.
So, is it still? What's the subtitle gonna be?
I think it's still the dawn of humanity.
Yeah.
But it's open to being workshopped too,
Yeah.
because I was thinking like it's also bigger than humanity.
In what way?
Like it matters for the trees too.
Yeah.
It matters for that dog.
Yeah.
It matters for Buster.
Yeah.
It's bigger than just humanity. It's like the dawn of I don't know. I'm not gonna say consciousness because that's been already processed in. I don't know.
Yeah, when dawn of consciousness is where my mind went
Right.
first. Dawn of universe, dawn of a word that we haven't invented yet.
Yeah, maybe I'll just come up with my own word and be like,
yeah.
eat it.
That's right.
I don't even know what I would come. The dawn of love, perhaps. I don't know.
Or something yet to be discovered.
Whatever is meant to be, find its way to me. But I like the dawn of humanity, and there's definitely a profound essence of truth to it.
Yeah, it's a good bridge too to like some of the more esoteric stuff.
Right,
this.
like if you hit it with like the dawn of consciousness.
Yeah,
like,
they're like,
whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's fun. I literally could wake up in the morning, start writing it, write all day, not eat, and be like infinitely fulfilled.
Yeah.
Infinitely fulfilled.
Yeah.
But it's weird because I want to meditate. I want to cook food. I want to have conversations with cool people. I want to go coach basketball. I want to play basketball.
Yeah.
So it's just finding the balance and finding the structure to create the space for me to express it and creating an adequate amount of structure to where it's like, okay, I'm fulfilled.
Yeah.
I could be writing more, but like, I'll let it be.
Yeah.
And
it's going to be what it's going to be. Experience everything there is to experience in this world while you can.
Right. Oftentimes I'll come back like, man, this life thing's pretty cool, you know?
Yeah.
And Lee talks about all the time, it's like getting out of our own way is the way.
Yeah.
And really, that's just letting yourself be.
It's existing.
As you are. It's tapping into beingness.
Yeah.
That's what mystical talks about all the time. Meditation is the practice of that in its most fundamental form. It's just being.
Being, yeah.
Just sitting and just being. And basically detaching from everything else.
Yeah.
Really just everything.
Yeah.
Even your own being, in a sense. Because you can't not be.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like,
you just are.
yeah. There's like nothing we could do. Physically, maybe you could die. But then you get into like, okay, spiritually.
Yeah. What's next? What's after that?
What goes on, you know?
Exactly.
Does it even end?
I don't believe so. Who knows? I don't know.
I don't know how it, like, physically,
right,
we pass.
Yeah.
But that's not all we are, it's physical bodies.
Right.
There's a spirit. There's a spirit there.
Yes, there is. That's a fascinating question. I used to get scared by that question. Like, worry about what the answer to that question is. Like, what happens after you physically die? Like, be scared of it. Now it's like, no. I'm ready for it.
Not knowing is true knowledge.
Not ready for it like, oh, I want to die today, but ready for it meaning there's a next level of exploration after that. And that being exciting rather than scary.
Have you ever watched or read near-death experiences? Like some people describe it?
Sometimes a few videos, yeah.
They're always so mystical to me.
Right.
Maybe there was this one of mine that was like climbing this ice wall and like basically froze to death and died. He like went and penetrated. And they all pretty much say that they just feel the greatest amount of pure love they've ever felt.
Yeah.
And then they like come back in and they're like, what?
Yeah.
And they awaken in the physical. But there's like a consciousness in the death somehow.
Yeah.
And sometimes I relate to like DMT is released when you die.
Yeah.
And we have the ability to ingest DMT too.
Yes.
Which isn't something that I've done, but
not yet.
Not yet.
Isn't DMT one of the active molecules in ayahuasca?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like a I don't know, sister to it or something. Like it had like DMT is the active molecule in there.
Yeah, okay.
Just like a slightly different form.
Yeah.
I don't know the molecular chemistry behind it, but
yeah, that's one I have yet to do. That I will.
Aya or
well, both. Yeah, they've been coming in my sphere recently. It just hasn't come to fruition yet. It will.
Creating an Enlightened Society. This is just a great book. So much to read from it.
What's it called again?
Shambhala, the Sacred Path of the Warrior.
Nice.
And yeah, so to finish my thought from earlier, I read this book, Zen Golf, and the author of that book referenced this book, like The Art of Shambhala, and talks about like the Sacred Path of the Warrior in that book, references this book. And I was like, oh, I'll buy it.
Nice.
I bought it, read it, and here it is. What was I just... How to be a warrior. Most people think like, and they talk about it in this book, most people think warrior is bravado.
Right.
You know, tough. But they talk about the warriors actually penetrating into that gentle truth of sadness all the way into the heart. And like there's a degree of sadness that comes with actually being a warrior. And there's a tenderness that comes with it too. That's why I said that Jack Moses like embodies Shambhala warrior to a great degree. Because you can feel that. He's not like necessarily bravado.
Right.
But he has this incredibly warm tenderness to him from the heart.
He does.
But he's also like a strong leader.
Yes.
And he's renounced and is renouncing himself in the process.
Yes.
It's really special.
Yes.
To see.
That was a special experience.
Dude, I was blown away and still am by that retreat. That was amazing.
That was so powerful.
Huh?
That was so powerful.
I'm excited to see where he goes with it.
Yeah. There'll be more experiences like that for sure.
Thailand.
All over the world.
What time is it?
I was about to say, how long have we been going?
It's 7:30. What time did we start?
Like
it was
5?
like 5 or something.
These are the types of conversations that I love having.
That are the best because it's not like an interview.
Right.
There's no really box to it.
Yeah. No agenda other than a starting point and an ending point.
Right.
That.
Yeah. That's why I like the first time that the idea for me to do a podcast came in Costa Rica in 2023. I think if you watched the Genesis video.
Yep, I watched it today.
That was like a year and almost 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And now it's starting to come into fruition.
Here it is.
But it's like it wouldn't have made sense if I did it a year ago.
Right.
Or I don't know if made sense is the right word. It just like wouldn't.
It would have been different.
It just wasn't meant in that.
Yeah. It came to be when it came to be.
Yeah. It's like, what am I going to draw up in December of 2023 that I'm talking to Lincoln Jacob here at his place with 2 dogs?
Right. No.
You know? Lighting up Palo Santo and hotboxing the place with Palo Santo. It's beautiful in its unknown nature.
Yeah. This is the type of experiences I live for. This, like, conversations, and now we get to share it with people, and
exactly.
That's really powerful. More people see what's out there and what it sparks in them.
I think it allows people to tap into their heart, really.
Yeah. I
don't know if they'll be able to pick up the noise or not from this, but
you can overlay it in the background too, actually.
That's true. 29. Do you want to improve the world? I don't think it can be done. The world is sacred. It can't be improved. If you tamper with it, you'll ruin it. If you treat it like an object, you'll lose it. There is a time for being ahead, a time for being behind, a time for being in motion, a time for being at rest, a time for being vigorous, a time for being exhausted, a time for being safe, a time for being in danger. The master sees things as they are without trying to control them.
Mm-hmm.
She lets them go their own way and resides at the center of the circle. Not knowing. Fully whole.
Not knowing, fully whole.
And that'll wrap it up.